Surviving in Tarkov is quite a task. In this video, I'll give you some tips, or rather 5 tips on how to survive more often. First, use unconventional routes. Many players move according to a set plan, which usually changes over time. This largely depends on quests, especially during the first month of a wipe, but also on key points of interest. Let's start by setting a goal. If you simply want to avoid encounters with enemies, steer clear of PvP and peacefully loot less dangerous areas, here's what you should do. First, study the spawns on the map. Then, mark key locations on the map. For example, on customs, these would be dorms, construction sites and the library. On interchange, every electronic store. On lighthouse, cottages and rogues. At the shoreline is the sanatorium. On reserve, people often head to the basements. On woods, the sawmill and the USEC camp. On streets of Tarkov is the relaxation room, Lexus, Concordia and much more. By plotting the shortest roads from spawn points to these points of interest, you'll map out the main roads of movement for the main group of PMCs. If you move across these lines, there's a high probability of encountering them. Your goal is to build your road using a more secure path or to choose a different direction altogether. Another option if your goal is to reach the best loot spawn spots and outperform others. Tarkov is a game about positioning and gathering information combined with its effective implementation. It's become a convention that the person already holding a position has a better chance of winning than the one attempting to attack. Perhaps the only way to gain such an advantage in a more pronounced manner is by using stimulants. SJ6 provides a good start and allows you to get the necessary places even if not the first but at least one of the first. By the way, the lines you drew earlier can also be extremely useful in another format. When you appear, you can, based on them, intercept PMC squad neighboring spawns and are already running toward their goal. And you will end their lives. Second tip. Maybe it's obvious to many, but no less important. Don't neglect having enough consumables. Forget a turbine splint, coupled with running out of painkillers in your pouch. Will play a cool trick on you when you decide to beat a bot that welcomes you with a shot from a Taz. You'll just be happy when you realize you forgot to take stims at the moment when 3 bleeds open up at once and your head fills with black. And so, the lack of a J12 on hand and the absence of food and water will instantly kill you better at head. Third tip is about positioning. Whether you're a sniper or like to attack, there are some basic rules. Firstly, when you're inside a dark building, it's easy to kill someone outside. If you don't wear yuntar or sand colored you like, your body will be just as dark as the space around you. Meanwhile, your opponent will contrast sharply with the surroundings of Tarkov. However, this works under certain conditions. If you have enough space to retreat and if you change your position after giving away extra information to the enemy. Otherwise, it's a trap, and you can easily be bombed with grenades or prevented from escaping. When occupying positions in open areas of the map, pay attention to what's behind you. Have you ever noticed how sometimes a player standing against the sky is clearly visible? Aiming and hitting them in the head is too easy. Have you noticed moments when you can see opponent up close and they kill you in the back? It's because the first player was against the sky and the second one remembered to cover themselves with the storm from behind, making their silhouette much less noticeable. It's also important to wisely choose your clothing from Wegman's store so that it's not too bright. Grey tones are the best and most versatile option. Also, try to be higher than your enemy. If they are lower and start running, you will definitely see where they are going. If you start moving, you will simply disappear from their field of view. Even more situational and wise decision would be to consider the direction of the sun. If it's behind you, it will serve as a flashlight, blinding the enemy. And of course, a guaranteed wise decision would be to subscribe to the channel. You want to see more videos, right? Fourth tip – understanding how sound works. Heavy rain almost completely drowns out normal footsteps. If you're running, especially with a teammate, don't be surprised if you don't hear an enemy, because your footsteps will drown out most quiet sounds. Active headsets hear almost twice as far forward as backward, and running makes a sound up to 80 meters away, so you can get pretty close to the enemy party, while chasing them until they notice you. Brushing against any bush, piece of wood, metal or glass is much clearer and louder than simply moving on concrete or grass. I've already talked about all this in this video, so watch it later if you need to. But I'll add separately that when playing with a friend, try to talk off topic as little as possible. I think it's obvious why. Don't forget that you can also use sounds as false demonstrations of actions. It's quite a simple situation. When I knew there was an enemy on the stairs, first I opened the door, hoping he would realize it and run to defend me from the ladies with the steams. Then I reinforced his impression by entering and starting to loot. Seeing that he reacted, then taking the same position, I caught him in his erroneous conclusions. Using the same principle, you can start looting a box or a safe, you can check a weapon magazine. The sound is very similar to reloading, but the animation is much shorter and provoke the enemy into action. The fifth tip: don't be predictable. This is the worst mistake. Here are 3 examples. The first one is a situation where there's an obvious spawn on the factory corridor. A person hears my footsteps. Instead of trying to outsmart me in any way, picks slightly from behind the corner, lie down, almost the full body sticks out in the middle, which deprives him of the ability to quickly retreat and makes him an extremely easy target. The second example is a mistake, and its most common one: a repeat from the same side in the same execution. Notice that when I try to maneuver and change positions taking the other side, the opponent simply comes out the second time in identical way to the first, without trying to come up with anything different. Although he had options to retreat after taking damage or again just hop through the corridor and at least gather additional information about me. And the third situation is a vivid example of what not to do. There was a very long struggle. The person literally came out 4 to 5 times identically, and moreover, did it every time, giving me the opportunity to aim and wait for him. For me, this is advantageous because catching someone while sitting in a position much easier than trying to pick them all blindly. After each visual contact with them, I try to change my position at least a little. In the end, a fatal mistake was made again. After my quick peek to gather information, the person remained in the same position, giving me the opportunity to make an easy shot to the head. The moral of this fable is this: if you've given away information about yourself, always try not to follow it further. Also, your actions should be varied. If you let the opponent get used to your behavior, they'll easily take advantage of it. And of course, you need to understand that there are certain obvious places and positions where if you decided to play, you shouldn't make it even more predictable than it already is. And the sixth bonus tip is to choose the right gear for the location. If the map you are going to is lighthouse, shoreline, boots, taking weapons without optics or with extremely low muzzle velocity is a mistake. You'll often encounter guys who are sitting very far away and shooting at you with the bolt-action rifles with scope that allows them to see every pimple on your face. There's also the opposite situation. Assembling a longer SA-58 if you're going to dorms is a slightly worse option than assembling its shorter version. Personally, I've developed one rule for myself. If I run out of consumables like grenades or God forbid forget to attach a flashlight, then I am not going back into the building. It's your turn to write your survival rules in the comments. Perhaps some of them will make it into the next video. Like, subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Bye bye!